Officials are also watching what is happening right now on the ground in Los Angeles. President Trump's
because Governor Newsom and the Democrat leaders of California weren't acting, were quick enough to act. I mean, I've been here since Wednesday last week to initiate an operation, and things got out of control quickly Friday night and Saturday. And the president took quick action to deploy the National Guard to protect government property that was being destroyed, protecting our agents and officers, and protecting the general public. I think the President Trump did exactly the right thing. He's trying to prevent another Minnesota from 2020, trying to prevent another Portland, Seattle tragedy. So I'm happy he deployed National Guard.
Well, speaking of 2020, there was a comment that the president made then about whether or not he could deploy and activate the National Guard. I want you to listen to what he said then.
We have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that. Even in a Portland case, we can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor.
The law, of course, has not changed since then. So what has?
I'm not an attorney, and all I know is I'm on calls every day with the heads of DOD and DOJ. So we got legal minds in DOJ and DOJ are making these decisions. So I certainly think the president's acting within the confines of the law. I mean, I'm on phone calls every day, and these lawyers are making these decisions, so I stand by it.
But I think some people may look at that and say, well, one, you know the law very well. Obviously, you worked in deportations when President Obama was in office. You're now back in this role.
I know immigration law very well, but I do not. I'm not an expert on constitutional law or insurrection law or national. That's out of my lane. I simply am thankful that whatever President Trump decided, that was backed up by attorneys in Department of Justice and Department of Defense. I'm just glad he deployed those National Guards here because I think they're saving lives. I think they're protecting property.
Well, some people may look and say, if this has not been something that any president has done and hasn't happened since the 1960s, is this the worst protest that has happened since then, warranting that?
These questions that, no president has ever done that before. So now that he does it, it becomes something. Can he do it or not? Is it legal for him to do it or not? Plain and simple. Let's stop looking at whether other presidents did it before. How many times did they do it? It doesn't matter. It is within their constitutional right as president of the United States of America, the greatest country on earth, to do it. If they can do it, who cares if a president did it before? Who cares if it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The POTUS is the commander-in-chief of all branches of the military, all of them, every single one of them. I don't know if people know this. I don't know if it's breaking news to everybody, but the president can do whatever. He can activate, whatever, that's kind of a loose word there, but he can certainly activate the military when he pleases, especially in this particular case with the riots getting out of control over there. So she's trying to bait Homan here, and good that he's not falling for it, to be fair.
Look, I was on the ground Friday night where hundreds and hundreds of protesters who were protesters all of a sudden became criminals. They breached a federal bill and they had to be pushed back, where officers were at risk. Detainees that we had arrested were at risk. Officers have been injured. Property has been destroyed. So, yeah, if the Democratic leadership wasn't taking action, President Trump stepped up and took the action. I've been on the ground. I've seen the worst of the worst down there, so I'm glad President Trump reacted to save lives and property.
Yeah, I was just in LA on Friday as well. But on this front and what the president's plans are in the administration overall, have you been personally involved in conversations about invoking the Insurrection Act?
No, again, I'm here running a Title VIII immigration operation. I'm not involved in discussions, but I do know every day a conversation happens with the leadership of DOJ, DHS, and DOD on a decision going forward. I think decisions on deployment of the National Guard and any other deployment of DOD is a decision being made by the White House along with the Department of Justice, DOD. I know those calls are happening every day.
But you haven't personally been involved in conversations about invoking the Insurrection Act. Is that what you're saying?
I have not.
Okay. And speaking of the deployment so far, the National Guard, we've seen about 300 members arrive there so far, 2,000 activated. So far, also roughly 700 Marines have been mobilized to respond in Los Angeles. How will the administration decide if using those Marines is necessary here?
Well, I think, look, their number one goal, they're not going to be enforcing immigration law. We're doing that. We're immigration officers. But there's two different lanes of effort here. Number one, we got ICE officers along with other Department of Justice, HCs, FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshals that are out there doing immigration operations, and we're doing them today. We're going to do them tomorrow. We're going to do them every day we're here. At the same time, you get these protests that are getting out of hand, where protesters become criminals and public safety threats. So we got the National Guard and the military. Their job is protection of property and protection of our agents and their lives and their well-being, along with the public's well-being. But when these protests get out of hand, that's when the local authorities step in, and their job is to maintain public safety and public peace. And last night, LAPD did a pretty good job out there, trying to quell some of this violence down. So there's two different things going on here. So I'm involved with Title VIII operation, so I'm doing it.
Based on you saying the LAPD was doing their job last night, do you think that Marines would be necessary?
It depends. I mean, last night was pretty out of control. And LAPD was out there in force. But we got to remember, look, we have officers injured. We have a lot of government property, whether it's vehicle tires being slashed, or windshield being smashed, the government buildings being damaged. And we've had an instance where one protester threw a Molotov cocktail at an officer. I mean, this is getting to be a significant public safety issue here. So President Trump's thinking ahead of the game. He's leaning forward. He's going to send whatever resources we need to protect property and life. Now, again, the military's role is protect government property and protect our officers. But, again, local law enforcement needs to step up and control public safety. I mean, and President Trump deployed these people because the state of California, the mayor of San Diego, the mayor of Los Angeles, and the governor weren't simply acting fast enough. So, again, being on the ground here, being involved in watching what happened Friday and Saturday night, I'm grateful to do this.
Well, and they're arguing.
So hold on, let me pause it for a second there, because she's speaking. We talk about the Marines, and as I said it before, the deployment, how people are reacting on the left about the deployment of National Guard, and saying that is instigating, that it is creating panic, and people are freaking out, and people are losing their minds. They're burning cars, they're burning the American flag, they're waving the Mexican flag, and it's making them violent. Are we really thinking of what we're saying here? So let me get this straight. You can argue whether the Marines, or actually there's no argument in my opinion with the National Guard. I think they needed to be deployed at the time. You can make your argument with the Marines and all of that, right? But the fact that they want us to believe that you see a service member there in front of you, and all of a sudden this is a caged animal that we are unleashing, the ultimate weapon that we have, these animals that are the Marines, these people that are just ready to shoot and going to beat up everybody in Los Angeles for no reason. If there is no riots, if there's no fires, if there's no looting, if there is no attacks, if there are no bricks being thrown at anybody, the Marines will just stand there and do nothing. The National Guard will just stand there and do absolutely nothing. What is the issue? If there are no protests, if there are no violent protests, rather, not protests, people can protest, or no riots, for lack of a better word, riots, then the military should be irrelevant. You can argue then whether it's smart to keep spending all that money, over 130 million in military. You can argue that. But to argue that the military all of a sudden is going to make these people, it's going to instigate a riot, it makes absolutely no sense. I'm a former service member, and I don't understand this logic. And again, she's trying hard to bait him, but it's certainly not working.
That LAPD and the local law enforcement was handling it just fine, and that the National Guard was not required. But I just want to follow up on the Marines, because obviously that is a headline that people see that. And it might alarm some people to see that hundreds of Marines have been activated to potentially be deployed. You're commending the LAPD. Do you believe Marines could be necessary?
Yes, and it all depends on the activity of these protesters. I mean, they make the decisions. I keep hearing media reports that they're rioting because President Trump sent National Guard. It's just ridiculous. They make the decision to burn a vehicle. They make the decision to throw a weapon at an law enforcement officer. They make the decision on assaulting officers. This is their decision. President Trump doesn't make them burn a vehicle or insulting an officer. President Trump is leaning forward, give us the resources to be here, to be ready to take on what's next. We don't know what's going to happen tonight. It seems like at night, the crowds get bigger, the violence peaks. So we want to be ahead of the game. We want to be well prepared with the military here to protect government and protect officers' lives.
So you're saying that they may be necessary. I just want to follow up on what you just said, though, a few seconds ago. You're saying these operations, the ICE operations in the Los Angeles area, are continuing right now?
Of course.
Yes, absolutely. We got over 100 teams out there doing Title VIII operations.
Okay, and those will continue over the next several days, I imagine, is what you're arguing?
They'll continue every day, not only in California and Los Angeles. They're going to continue in every city across the country. We have teams throughout the country that are out there looking for those in the country illegally. We're prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. We're looking for people who've had due process, had order removal from a judge that didn't leave. So we're in every city in the country, and ICE is going to be out every single day, and we'll continue to be out there, regardless of what's happening in LA. They're not going to stop us from completing our mission. We're going to enforce the laws of this country.
Yeah,
on California specific,
that's very important. But please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. This is Veteran Uncensored. My name is Chris Rodriguez. A new podcast, new show here, speaking the truth. She tried, but it's not working. So Homan, very good. Staying. It must have been in the morning when he didn't have his coffee yet. He wasn't energized or something. But yeah, it wasn't going to work. The Marines being activated, you can activate the Navy SEALs for all we care. I'm just gonna, if I live in LA, I'm just gonna keep going about my business, keep walking straight, and do my. As long as I'm not committing crimes, why do I have to worry about whoever is guarding downtown Los Angeles? It makes absolute no sense. And so that's not gonna listen. And I actually thought in the previous show that we did yesterday, I believe, I thought that the rhetoric needed to be toned down from Trump as well, and he need to acknowledge that these people, some of these people, not the criminals, none of that, the rapists, the murderers, none of those, but the regular people that go to work, pay their taxes, and they have a process. You need to add a little bit of a humane side of things. And Trump today came out and spoke about being open-minded with the farmers, with the farmers help that have been here for a while, that farmers need them, that are illegal, as well as the hotel, the leisure, the people that work in hotels, etc. People that are law-abiding citizens that don't get in trouble, that pay their taxes, that go to work and live normal life. I thought that was tremendous. I thought that was amazing. But as far as the criminals are concerned, I'm sorry, but bye-bye, my friends. We don't need, we already got criminals in this country. We don't need illegal criminals as well. If you come to this country, you're going to have to be on your best behavior.